It's no wonder that in 2021, San Francisco issued only 2,000 permits for new homes. Sure, there are people living in the streets, but that's because we want to make sure the apartments they don't live in are perfect. I don't fear AI anymore because it couldn't possibly be any more robotic than the humans who run things now.
Bill Maher has finally had it with the woke left, and honestly, so have I. On a recent episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, the sharp-tongued comedian tore into the progressive obsession with bureaucracy that's strangling America's drive to save the environment. In classic Maher style, he didn't just criticize, he roasted them, exposing how the left spends mountains of money to achieve next to nothing. The result, a blistering takedown that left no room for excuses. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's dive straight into it.
It's not that America isn't able to get anything done, it's that we're not allowed to. Of course, there should be consideration of the environment on everything we build, but as so often happens on the left, they seem to have no ability to recognize when they've taken a concept way too far and are in fact hurting their own cause. America's become Gulliver, the giant that got tied down with 1,000 tiny ropes by Lilliputians, the horde of little people who do big damage. Build back better? Sounds good. So does shovel-ready jobs. Yeah, exactly.
So, Maher kicked things off by torching the woke left for suffocating America's progress under layers of red tape and endless bureaucracy. He argued that the so-called Build Back Better plan, championed by the Biden administration, was never about building or bettering anything. It was just a bloated web of procedures, committees, and endless paperwork. According to Maher, it was less a vision for progress and more a masterclass in government inefficiency. Every step forward came with a dozen forms to fill and 100 approvals to chase. In the end, he claimed the plan would have done little for ordinary Americans and a whole lot more for the bureaucrats and contractors cashing in.
Barack Obama once said one of the biggest lessons he learned as president was there is no such thing as shovel-ready projects. Environmental impact statements used to be a few pages long. Now they're thousands of pages of legalistic nonsense and take an average of 4.5 years to complete, with thousands of bureaucrats filling out millions of paper forms that kill hundreds of forests to answer the question, is this good for the environment? In San Francisco, the city's so nice you'll step in poop twice.
Obama campaigned heavily on shovel-ready projects, promising to hit the ground running the moment he took office. But that promise quickly collapsed. He later admitted, somewhat sheepishly, that there were actually no shovel-ready projects. The truth was buried under mountains of regulations and endless environmental reviews. Even today, the woke left obsession with the Environmental Impact Statement, EIS, continues to stall major projects like the Keystone XL pipeline extension under the Biden administration, which could have balanced development and environmental protection. Ironically, the government's supposed commitment to saving the planet produces tons of paper waste every year just to print these lengthy EIS reports. It's a perfect example of bureaucracy defeating the very purpose it claims to serve.
There's an area where homeless people were urinating and defecating, and it was starting to annoy the people breaking into cars. So the city tried to build a public toilet last year, but then gave up when the cost hit $1.7 million. Not $1.7 million for a public toilet system, $1.7 million for one toilet. And this wasn't some magic toilet that catches your phone when you drop it. So then a private company took pity on San Francisco and offered to build them their toilet for free. But after, quote, project management, construction management, architecture and engineering fees, permits, civic design review, surveys, contract preparation, and cost estimation, the free toilet was still going to cost almost $1 million.
And that's where our collective frustration truly lies. All of this unfolded under the Biden administration, a period so tangled in bureaucracy that even the simplest projects turned into nightmares of paperwork and delay. It's one of the many reasons the DNC eventually got voted out of office. People were tired of seeing their tax dollars vanish into administrative black holes. Take something as basic as building a public toilet. During Biden's term, that became a Herculean task. Between the endless permits, environmental reviews, zoning meetings, and contractor markups, a free toilet could end up costing nearly $1 million before a single brick was laid. That kind of inefficiency isn't governance. It's government gone mad. The country needed problem solvers, not paper pushers. But what it got instead was a gridlock system where talk was cheap, action was expensive, and progress was practically impossible.
It feels like San Francisco is actually proud of being impossible. Asked about the toilet, a spokesman for the Department of Public Works said, "We are a city of public input." Okay, but I'm stepping in public output.
The open defecation crisis in San Francisco is beyond alarming. It's embarrassing for a city that prides itself on progress and compassion. Streets once known for their culture and charm are now marked by human waste. And yet, while residents are desperate for change, the local government seems trapped in its own bureaucratic maze. Every plan to build public toilets gets buried under layers of environmental reviews, funding debates, and procedural delays. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens are left to navigate sidewalks that reek of neglect and indifference. The situation perfectly captures a failure of overregulation, good intentions strangled by bad systems. People want clean, safe streets. They want dignity restored. But as long as the city remains paralyzed by its own red tape, San Francisco's most basic human problem will continue to fester right in the open.
Well, the median time to get approval to build a house there is 627 days. That's 217 days longer than it took to build the Empire State Building. You need 87 permits, 15 from the Planning Commission, 26 from the Public Utilities Commission and the Fire Department, 19 from building inspectors, 17 from the Public Works, 10 related to public spaces, and 1 from a guy in a T-shirt that says Federal Boob Inspector.
This is genuinely disheartening. It almost feels like the more we advance as a society, the harder it becomes to actually get things done. We've wrapped ourselves so tightly in caution, political correctness, and red tape that what our forefathers built in a single year now takes us nearly 2 or more to complete. And yet, we're the generation that prides itself on innovation, speed, and intelligence. How ironic. We live in an age of artificial intelligence, smartphones that can calculate rocket trajectories, and nanochips smaller than a grain of sand. Yet, we can't build a simple road or public facility without drowning in paperwork and protests. Progress has become paralyzed by procedure. The tools are more powerful than ever, but our will and our systems seem weaker. For a generation that claims to be smarter, this kind of inefficiency is nothing short of baffling.
It's no wonder that in 2021, San Francisco issued only 2,000 permits for new homes. Sure, there are people living in the streets, but that's because we want to make sure the apartments they don't live in are perfect. I don't fear AI anymore because it couldn't possibly be any more robotic than the humans who run things now. So let me...
San Francisco and California are facing a full-blown homelessness crisis. Yet you'd think that would motivate leaders to make housing construction faster and easier. Instead, it's the opposite. Building a single home can take years, buried under permits, zoning laws, environmental reviews, and community hearings. It's almost as if the system is designed to keep people on the streets. And that's the tragedy. These are some of the most beautiful, wealthiest, and most progressive states in America, boasting world-class cities and billion-dollar tech companies. Yet they can't solve one of the most basic human needs, shelter. The sight of tents lining sidewalks has become the new normal, a symbol of failure hiding behind good intentions. California could lead the nation in affordable housing innovation, but instead, it's leading in red tape and excuses.
So let me finish with this. Not that there was ever any reason to build it in the first place, and not that there would be any reason to do it again. But just as an exercise in realizing how far we've regressed as the can-do people, I think we should all try to imagine how it will go down if we tried to sculpt Mount Rushmore out of a mountain today. First, we'd have to make the mountain handicap accessible, so we could hire handicapped people to work on the side of a mountain. Then there'd be a 10-year delay while we studied the effect of construction noise on the mating habits of woodchucks. Then another 10 years to obtain ethically sourced dynamite and find a sculptor who doesn't only work from home.
Bill makes a crucial point here. Sometimes the sheer number of permits and regulations required to build anything in this country is downright absurd. We've turned progress into paperwork. Our ancestors, with far fewer resources and no endless permit chains, managed to build railroads, bridges, and entire cities that still stand today. Of course, they weren't perfect, but at least they got things done. Today, bureaucracy has become a wall, not a safeguard. It slows innovation, kills initiative, and leaves urgent problems to rot. Take San Francisco's open defecation crisis. For instance, the city doesn't need another round of committee meetings. It needs action. Every day of delay worsens public health and safety. If leaders spend half as much time building solutions as they do filling forms, the streets would be cleaner, the city...
And then another 2 years to apologize for being on Indian land. And finally, after 50 years and a cost that had ballooned to $100 billion, we'd have half a nostril, and it wouldn't be Lincoln. It'd be Che Guevara.
It sounds funny, but it's absolutely true. You'd think all these layers of bureaucracy exist to protect people and the planet, but in reality, they often do the opposite. Even when they do help, the results are so small, they're barely noticeable. It's the illusion of progress wrapped in red tape. Take electric cars, for instance. We've been told for years that they're the silver bullet for saving the environment. Yet, after 2 decades of tax credits, subsidies, and mass adoption, the overall environmental impact has been surprisingly minimal. Why? Because the electricity still comes largely from fossil fuels, and mining for batteries leaves its own scars on the planet. So, while we pat ourselves on the back for going green, the planet barely notices. Real progress doesn't come from paperwork or performative policies. It comes...
I feel like it wasn't that long ago when you could watch cable news for a day and not get the impression that this whole place was totally batshit. That simply was not America. Florida, yes, but not America. So, let's examine what makes sane people feel this way. Sane people who are, after all, still the vast majority, and who are the ones who, I assume, just voted me the most trusted man in America. That is a real headline.
You might not like Bill Maher. I don't even agree with everything he says. But one thing is undeniable: he's consistent, honest, and not afraid to challenge his own side. That's rare these days. You can count on Maher to deliver balanced commentary and sane viewpoints, even when it ruffles feathers in his own political camp. So, when polls named him one of the most trusted men in America, it wasn't a fluke. It was a result of decades of fearless truth-telling. He's earned his stripes the hard way, by questioning dogma instead of parroting it. What makes Maher stand out, even as a liberal, is his ability to dissect issues with clarity and wit, calling out hypocrisy wherever it appears. Love him or hate him, you know exactly where he stands, and that's why people listen. At the end of the day, Bill Maher isn't just ranting. He's reflecting a frustration that millions of Americans feel. We've reached a point where bureaucracy has replaced efficiency, and red tape has become the new national pastime. From the failure of shovel-ready projects to San Francisco's open defecation crisis, the evidence is everywhere. Too many rules, not enough results. Maher's critique isn't about politics. It's about common sense. We're living in an age of unprecedented technology and intelligence, yet we can't seem to build a toilet, a house, or a road without drowning in paperwork. It's tragic, ironic, and absurd all at once. Whether you agree with Maher or not, his message is clear. America doesn't need more committees or permits. It needs courage, accountability, and the will to act. Because if bureaucracy keeps winning, progress will always lose. And on this note, we draw the curtains on today's video. If you enjoyed it, then hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this.